Good evening and welcome to the 1568th meeting of the General Student Senate, 21st meeting of the 45th session, which you may call to order. Notice that this meeting is being broadcast via Zoom and the recording will be publicly available on YouTube. A second notice, I am completely deaf in this year, so I humbly ask all of you to please use your public speaking. I cannot hear myself talking. Called it to order, I will now read the Atlantic. University of Maine recognizes that it is located on Marsh Island in the homeland of the Penobscot Nation, where issues of water and territorial rights and encroachment upon sacred sites are ongoing. Penobscot homeland is connected to the other Wabanaki tribal nations, the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, and Mi'kmaq, through kinship, alliances, and diplomacy. The university also recognizes that the Penobscot Nation and the other Wabanaki tribal nations are distinct, sovereign, legal, and political entities with their own powers of self-governance and self-determination. The clerk will now call the roll.
Cynthia Shellerton. Here. Ezekiel DeLong.
Here.
Nate Penn.
Here.
Jordan Thompson.
Here.
Stephen Buckle.
Here.
Maggie Johnson. Here. Pastor Callan.
Here.
Joshua Bone.
Here.
Juliana Jolin. Here. Isabella Lovengood. Here. Taylor Kearns.
Excuse.
Matthew Weber.
Excuse.
Nor I. Here. Pastor Harvey. James Ritter Stewart.
Excuse.
Marcus McLean.
Here.
Bowman Shu.
Here.
Meredith Waters. Here. Darren Martone.
Here.
Kyle Regular.
You.
Zachary Zella.
Here.
Ethan Crowley.
Here.
Hazel Sparks. Here. Callum Bella.
Here.
Taylor Stanford. Here. Keegan Tripp.
Here.
Memphis Peterson.
Here.
Oliver Block.
Here.
Dylan Lehman.
Here.
Neil Rocky.
Here.
Elizabeth Oldfield. Here. Abby Downer. Here. Zoe Stankiewicz. Here. Olivia Britton. Here. Riley Mills.
Here.
Dylan Merchant.
Here.
Amanda Levesque. Here. Jacob Harquist.
Here.
Hannah Blanchett. Here. Zachary Wentworth.
Here.
John Guzman.
Here.
Pascal Lamb.
R.
Hyder Myatt. Danny Tanaka.
Here.
Lori Sadoko. Here. And James Salidas.
That's.
He's been proxy.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Thank you. I am now looking for approval of the 22 minutes in the agenda. Senator Waters.
I move to approve the 10, 22, 24 minutes in this agenda.
Second. If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Moving on to Robert's Rules tip of the week. Why don't we do a motion to move an item to a committee? Where what you say, you can't interrupt the speaker and it doesn't need a second, but you raise your hand and say, I move that we refer this matter or this resolution or this motion to a committee. You can also motion it back to a committee for reconsideration if there's a lot of ongoing debate and amendments that aren't really going anywhere, just to save time for the general Senate session. Next, we will move on to general good and welfare. Any non-member may address the general student senate for not more than 5 minutes. Seeing none, we will move on to new senators, officer appointments, and resignations. Will Newer N please rise? And would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I state your name.
I, Nurulan.
Do solemnly swear.
I could not.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and uphold
that I will support
the Constitution of Student Government, Inc.
the Constitution of Student Government
and all other rules and guidelines
and all of the rules and guidelines
to which I will be held.
to which I will be held.
Further, I swear
Further, I swear
to well and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter,
on which I'm about to enter,
while representing my constituency
while representing my constituency,
and the University of.
the University of Maine.
Congratulations. Next, we will move into flood maintenance, starting with the students for the awareness of overdose prevention here for preliminary recognition.
My name is Kylie McAfee. I'm here with Students for the Awareness and Prevention of Overdose, a prospective organization here at the University of Maine. I'm joined here today by my Vice President, Nate Fang, my Treasurer and Secretary, Cadence Burgoyne, my Events Coordinator, Avery Dewey, and my Social Media Coordinator, Kai Harden. The goal of our organization is to help spread awareness about overdose and opioids at the university campus. Ideally, we want to be able to distribute resources about harm reduction and overdose prevention here at the university. We plan to do this in the form of distributing resources like fentanyl test strips and Narcan to those who request it, as well as resources like rescue breathing masks to high-risk areas such as fraternities on campus. We hope to receive recognition today because this is a really big issue in the state of Maine, and we have information that states like this kind of care works. Last year, the state of Maine in 2023 saw a 13 or 16% decrease in overdose deaths due to the spread of harm reduction materials such as Narcan and fentanyl test strips. We already have a growing inventory of overdose preventive materials such as Narcan and fentanyl test strips, and we hope to receive your support so we can do events to spread awareness about this issue that does affect our community. Our ultimate goal is to affiliate with a national branch called End Overdose, which has over 50 chapters across the country. This is a very popular organization because they provide the essential resource of training people on how to use naloxone, Narcan. Every member of our organization is required, whether you're in the executive board or a regular member, to carry Narcan, not carry Narcan, to be trained for Narcan. Obviously encouraged to carry Narcan as well. And by aligning with this group, we will not only receive, the organization will not only receive beneficial asset, we will also be able to receive funding to obtain more resources that we can distribute to the university. We plan to do our advertisement via social media and flyers. We also intend to host cabling events as soon as we can. And we really want to be there, especially for times that are more high risk, such as Maine Day or maybe even Halloween coming up. We want to be there so that we can hopefully decrease the incidents that decrease overdose incidents, excuse me. We also plan to work with local organizations. That's one of our main goals. Already we've reached out to members of Stop Addiction New England, but we hope to organize with members of organizations like Needlepoint Sanctuary, as well as UVAC and the fire department nearby. I'm happy to answer any questions about our organization. If you guys have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Representative Britton?
I don't have a question, but you reached out to me a little while ago, and my name's Olivia, and we spoke briefly, and I think it's really cool that you're here. And also, I do a lot of work with Needlepoint, so if you wanted to connect with them, I could probably help.
Wonderful, thank you very much. I will make sure to reach out to you very shortly. I really want to get that started. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Advisor Sudoku?
Hi, I'm just wondering, are you working with student wellness at all?
A lot of our resources, we have people that are very coordinated, have constant communication with Student Wellness Center. A lot of our resources like fentanyl test strips we have actually obtained from Swell. When we hopefully affiliate with the national organization, we will receive more resources, but right now we very much are relying on Swell.
Representative Merchant?
Yeah, so this is like a statement or a comment, but who is your advisor to this organization? I'm feeling it might be Professor Robert Glover.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'll say nothing more on that. He's a great individual, so I'm glad that you paired with him for us.
President Tripp?
I think it was your vice president, Nate Fang, who reached out to me, wondering about essentially your efforts to get a table for this weekend, especially with this weekend being a big weekend. I'm just curious where you are with that, and if you're still
Yeah, no, we're still obviously, maybe you want to say anything about that, but we're still obviously requesting to be able to do that for this week. Thursday or Friday would be preferable for us.
and where are you?
To the best of my knowledge, we are still not recognized by CSI, so
Right.
we will have to go through UMSG.
To get the, oh, is that how that works now? You just get-
Well, it's just that I can't request on campus groups yet. It's usually
Okay.
CSI.
Understood.
I
All
can
right.
help you.
Perfect. And that's kind of where I was going with that, was to connect you with Lori here, who I think can help you with that. Perfect, you read my mind.
Any other questions for the speakers? Senator Sparks?
For Halloween weekend and Maine Day, how are you planning on going out there? Are you planning on roaming or?
No, that's a really good question. I like, it's obviously for events like Maine Day, they're still very much in the future, but tentative idea is we want to do tabling around the dates, maybe like the days leading up to Maine Day. Provide resources like Narcan and fentanyl test strips, but also education about harm reduction and Maine's Good Samaritan laws and medical amnesty. Obviously, I think we might run into some problems with trying to table on and around the Ave, seeing as I don't think they want the students to be there. But I think having presence on campus where students congregate often is going to raise a lot of awareness about the issue.
Senator Fang?
Can I speak to that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, along with that, like, obviously, we're not UBAC, so we're not going to be frat hopping on Halloween weekend, making sure that everyone has Narcan. We just want to make sure that people know to call UBAC, how to get Narcan for themselves, as well as, basic things like how to recognize an overdose, how to rescue breathing, stuff like that. Our big thing is just the club name, the awareness for the prevention of overdose, so people know how to respond in those situations, but we're not going around administering Narcan to people.
Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Jolin?
Have you established a regular meeting time in place?
That's a really good question. Right now, our club has 13 registered members and several other members interested, like in our email lists joining. We're under the impression right now that it's going to be a lot easier to reserve spaces in like the union or on campus when we are a recognized organization. But we're in pretty constant communication with the members of our organization, and they right now we're just waiting to be recognized. So it's easier for us to reserve space in the union or around campus.
Representative Harkness?
Yeah, if you guys ever want to like partner with IFC or Panhandle and like get an event, like an educational event or like a training for like Narcan or anything, definitely reach out to us, because that's something we'd be more than happy to do with you guys.
Absolutely. Next week, I'm sorry, the week after next, we're already speaking in one of the fraternities, but that's a very big goal of us. I think it was Nate that really wanted us to make sure we had at least a third of members of groups on campus, especially fraternities and sororities that are trained and know how to administer naloxone. I think it's a very big goal of ours because, like I said, for better or worse, these are very high risk environments, and it's important to have a lot of people that are trained.
President Tripp?
Not a question, but I just really appreciate your efforts in terms of putting together something like this, especially the presence around the harm reduction on campus. I remember my freshman year, there was a group, I think it was Students Against Harm Reduction, that was like kind of trying to kick up and be this force, but I didn't really see that happen. So I'm excited for you guys to do that.
Yeah, they were around, I think it was Students for Harm Reduction. They were around 2022, I believe.
Yes.
I don't actually know where they are right now. I just know that they're not active currently, and what we really want to do is contribute, continue for the end of the fall.
Awesome.
Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Sparks?
How are you planning on having like an open dialogue with the students consistently? Because you can have the tabling and stuff, but if somebody has questions like a week later that just came to them, are you planning on having anything?
Absolutely. So we have a social media coordinator with us currently, Kai Harden. We really want people to be able to, like in our bio right now, although our social media profile is not fully active right now, we do have that people can contact us with any questions. We also, as this social media ramps up, we intend to spread a lot of resources about like what this does and like the impact like, nationally and in Maine. And so obviously people can come up to us with questions when we're tabling, when we are on and about campus, but if they have any questions when they're like alone in their dorms, we will be very amenable to people contacting us via email or through the Instagram profile.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
2-0 to pass.
Senator Waters?
Move to approve the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Next, I'd like to invite Fiber Arts for final recognition.
Hello, I'm Catherine Busco, the president of the UMaine Fiber Arts Club. I'm joined by my vice president Kelsey Hope and my treasurer Ruth Griffith. We are a club dedicated to creating a community around fiber arts and sharing skills across different skill levels. We meet at 1:30 in Colvin Hall. We have plans to hold a fundraiser the first week of December, and yeah, we want fun recognition, and yeah, that's the basis of our club.
Are there any questions for the speakers? Vice President Wolfield?
How many members do you have? We have about 30 active members, and they are all undergraduate.
Vice President Wolfield?
Where do you guys meet? We meet in Colvin Hall at 1:30 on Fridays.
Senator Waters?
Do you foresee yourself requesting funds in the future?
Yeah, we expect to request some funding. Mostly, we need somewhere to store a lot of materials that were already donated to us. So just buying something like bins to store that type of stuff. And we also hope to support other fundraising events, for example, nonprofits that do raffles or donating blankets to children or toys for the holidays. So we may request materials like yarn or needles or something like that to make those items.
Excellent. Are there any other questions for the speaker? Senator Jolin?
Would y'all be interested in knitting baby hats for a mission trip to Senegal?
Absolutely, if you give us more information, we just have to evaluate the capacity of our club and the skill levels, but if you reach out to us, we would be interested.
Any other questions for the speakers? President Tripp?
If one of you will give me your email, I'm currently working on, I have been working on a club storage project for a really long time. And that's about to kick up. I still have a few more things I have to kind of wrap up, but we will be offering a few different options. So I want to be able to, I want to make sure I can get in touch with you when that happens.
Senator Sparks?
Are you taking commissions? I don't think so, but we do have a fundraiser that we're holding on December 6th. We're going to be selling items that we've already made. That could be an avenue in the future for funding.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, what's the committee's recommendation? 4-0 to pass. Senator Waters?
I move to approve the committee's recommendation.
If that's the pleasure of the Senate, then it's adopted. Any discussion? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. And last but not least, I'd like to invite Dressage up for final recognition.
Stay humble, my dude.
Welcome.
So dressage is this kind of riding, and there's two other types of riding on campus. There's the standardbred drill team, which is done at Witter, and there's the equestrian team that is done in Dover Foxcroft, I believe. The equestrian team and the standardbred drill team are very different from us. The equestrian team does a lot of jumping while we're just flat work, and we focus more on strength training and the connection between you and your horse while remaining relaxed and collected. We show through the IDA, which is the Intercollegiate Dressage Association, and we show all over New England. Some of the places we go are Mount Holyoke and UVM, UNH, places like that. We ride currently at Puffer Brush Farm in Newburgh, Maine, under Bryn Walsh. We have about 14 members, some are iffy. But we are really looking forward to hopefully becoming a club so we can start going to places and start actually showing the neighbors.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Representative Burton?
I guess I have two. How often do you practice, and do you guys cover are the lesson fees paid for
At so every member pays for their own lessons, which we're all happy doing. To be on, there's two different parts of our club. We take, another difference between us and the other clubs on campus is we take anybody who wants to ride, whether they've never touched a horse, never seen a horse in person, to riding 4th level. So we'll take anybody, everybody is willing to cover costs of their lessons. And for the competition team, you have to take a lesson and do a practice ride every week. You can ride under the 2 instructors at Pucker Brush. You can ride under Katie Gonzo or Bryn Walsh, depending on what level you're at. And practice ride river, you just go ask a boarder or see if one of the lesson horses are available. That's if you want to be on the show team. Not everybody wants to be on the show team. We only have about 5 people. 4 people are allowed to go to competitions and ride. You ride as a team and an individual. You accumulate points that go towards nationals through individuals and as a team. Yeah, nobody has any points right now. We haven't gone anywhere, unfortunately.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Vice President Oldfield?
Are you guys exploring being a club sport?
We did, I looked into it. We don't really need funding, and it was a lot of unnecessary steps that I did not think we needed to take. We're more than happy fundraising everything that we need. The only really big help that we would need is going to nationals, because it's like $700 just to register a team, but I don't foresee that for this year at least.
President Tripp, how much did you say on average it is per member?
For the club fees?
Yeah, just say total.
It would depend on how often you wanted to ride. If you wanted to show, if you did all the shows that we went to, it would really just depend on what you wanted to do and what level you were at. I know privates for Bryn are 85, and then groups are 55, and privates for Katie are 55. Katie takes the lower level people, probably the complete beginners to intro to maybe training level, and then Bryn takes everybody above that. So it would really depend on if you're in a group lesson, if you're doing privates every week, if you're going to all of the shows. We don't have dues, so there's that. It really just depends on how much you ride and what you're really putting into the club, I would say.
Okay. Senator McLean?
You said that some of your members are iffy. How many of your members would you consider iffy? 2?
Yeah, every meeting they say they have tours with her. It just, but we have 12 that are coming every time. These girls have been on the team since we started last year. They're just.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what's the committee's recommendation? 4-0 pass. Senator Waters?
I move to approve the committee's recommendations.
Second.
If that's the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion? Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Seeing nothing for clerk presentations, we will now move on to our guest speaker. And I would like to invite Dr. Scott Marzilli, the Associate Provost for Student Success and Innovation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I saw how long the agenda is, so I will keep my official comments brief and then allow as much time as you all would like to ask questions of me. I will answer the questions to the best of my knowledge. Any questions that I don't have answers to, I will make sure to find the answer to those questions and I will get back to you. So My name is Scott Marzelli. I am the Associate Provost for Student Success and Innovation here at the University of Maine. I've been here now for almost 2 years in February. What I'm passing out to you is one of the things that when I was looking at this job back, I mean, it takes a long time to hire an administrator, rightfully so. But I was looking at this job back in 2022, which when I was looking at the job, and I was looking at a tremendous amount of data from the University of Maine, University of Maine and Shire. And one of the things that was very consistent was that the retention rate, and what retention means is it's first year students. So if you were a freshman, a first year student at one point here, if you didn't transfer in, when you came back your second year, that's what's calculated as a retention rate. That's what's published. If you type in UMaine retention rate, that's what you'll see. For the last 25 years or so, that retention rate has been right around 75, 76%, which is not terrible at all. Especially if you think that we accept on average about 95% of the students that apply. So as a flagship institution, to accept Research One, to accept 95%, we're basically saying if you apply here, we will accept you. And so we accept many different varying students with all from the gamut of all different levels, all different backgrounds come here. So when I was doing my research, one of the things I realized was that the students that come here with maybe different experiences. So first generation students that their parents had not gone to college, or Pell eligible students, or students that maybe were a little bit less prepared in high school. And if you start looking at these percentages, students typically did not return from their first year to their second year as you had any of those characteristics. And then if you added those characteristics up, so let's say you were a first generation student, also a Pell student, also a little bit maybe not as prepared, and how we define that was under a 3.0 high school GPA. But we call them compounding factors. And what you see is that as you have more and more of these compounding factors, these are things that you just bring with you here to the University of Maine. Your chance of returning goes down a lot. So it's 85% if you have none of these characteristics. It goes down to 72% if you have any one, so it's 66, 55, and then 40% if you have more. So one of the goals when I got here last February, I met with the provost, I met with Student Life, I met with really everyone. And one of my goals was we can increase retention rate of the entire population of students by making sure that all students have outstanding resources, but at the same time providing additional resources to students that may need them. And so what you have in front of you is, so, you know, it's many years worth of work, but this year from last year's cohort, so were any of you a first year student last year? Okay, so this is your cohort, your 2023 cohort. You have the highest retention that the university has on record. You have 83.4%, which is exceptional. So what I wanted to share with you on the back page was how does that compare to other New England land grant universities and what are called our peer universities. And you can see that for the first year, we surpassed our peer universities and we're only about 5%, less than 5% lower than the other New England land grants. And what I put on there also underneath the legend, what you can see is the acceptance rate. So what percentage of students do those other universities let in? So you can always increase your retention rate by being more selective. What we've done here is not become more selective. We've just provided more wraparound services and empowered the students to actually utilize those services and to get support, and then hence the retention. So I wanted to share that with you to start with, which is really exceptional. I don't know if you have any questions at all about the retention rate or anything I shared with you thus far. Okay, good. A couple things that I think got us there. One is the Black Bear early alerts. If you are first-year students from last year, you would have known about Black Bear early alerts. Those are opportunities for faculty to share with a tremendous team of staff and faculty to support students that the faculty say there may be at risk. So whether it's midterm grades or just the first 2 weeks, we get a lot of students within those first 2 weeks. They just don't know where to go. They're in the wrong class. They can't download the math. There's some digital math platform. They have the wrong math platform or the wrong account. And the faculty member will say, well, the student's not doing the work. And then what happens is the team goes behind the scene, calls the student, texts the student, gets in touch with the student. And a lot of times it's just fixing little minor problems to get the student back on track. The 6-week one is more like a midterm grade. So what we ask the faculty at that point is, are any of the students at risk, in your opinion, of not completing the class this semester? And we did it at 6 weeks, which would allow, about 8 weeks of time to get back on track. And so this year, just to give this perspective, we had over 850 cases of students needing extra support after the 6 weeks. And so, what you see is there's a whole team of people surrounding to make that happen. Another thing that we invested in is the NAC tutoring. I know that there's positives and negatives. I'm sure you guys can come up with a few positives, and I'm sure you can come up with a few negatives of NAC, like, well, I put in for a request and I haven't heard back and such. But I can tell you that we've been able to more than double the number of students that are being tutored right now. We've been able to increase the number of courses from 35 courses to over 300 courses. And the number of tutors, the number of students hired to do this went from roughly 45 to almost 200 students are being hired as tutors. So it's really a great opportunity. Yes, could it get better? Of course it could. And if there's ever concerns with tutoring, you could always reach directly out to me or anyone, to your leadership, and they can reach out to me, because we've only been doing this a year. We want to get better as fast as we can to make it better for you all. So those are a couple of programs that we have. I know that you have a question, I believe. You have a couple of questions that was shared with me. First of all, I have to do this. These are my two daughters. This is Maddie. She doesn't want to be introduced. But Millie, can you stand up? This is Millie. I picked them up right from YMCA and brought them right here. So I'm sorry that they're here with me, but they're wonderful. But a couple questions. One is related to the provost search. I don't know if you even know what a provost is or what an associate provost is, but my boss, Dr. Ballin, Provost Ballin, has decided to go back to faculty at the end of this year. And the provost is really the second person in charge. He's the person in charge of all academics is the provost. And so the question came to me is, what is happening there? All I can share with you is what I'm learning bit by bit. I know it's sad for me because I think that Provost Vaughn is amazing. I love coming to work every day. It's not very often where a vice president, senior vice president, knows all my kids. If he was to walk in right now, he would say, hi, Maddie, hi, Millie. That's the kind of guy that he is. Very supportive of student success. So on a personal note, and for the university, I'm sorry to hear that he's going back to faculty. What does that mean? I was just informed that they're going to hire a search firm to do the search. There's going to be, I think, I heard between 12 and 15 people on the committee to search for the new provost. And I was told that the time that they would like to have a commitment to come here is sometime, I believe, in April, I believe. So the search will go on. It'll start relatively soon. And interviews would probably be, at the best time to be here, right in, December, January, February. But that's the plan for the provost search. Any questions at all about the provost search that I can try to answer? Okay, and then the last one that I have, and then you guys can ask me anything you want, is around the Student Success Hub. We have a virtual Student Success Hub right now. It has over 15,000 unique visits to that, so it's used a lot by students. Last year, we spent, gosh, probably 6 months on a task force to look at taking the virtual Student Success Hub and creating an actual physical Student Success Hub here on campus. Kind of a one-stop shop for all your needs. If you didn't know where else to go, you could go to this one place. And if they didn't have the answer for you, they would get the answer for you. So you wouldn't be, it's called the academic shuffle, where you go, and I'm sure you've all done it, you go to financial aid, then you go to the cashier, then you go to the registrar. Luckily, it's all there, you're going up and down floors, and then you go back to your advisor, and all you want is just one question answered. The goal would be that this would take care of that. That report was submitted to the provost in May. It was being reviewed, and I can tell you that there were 2 locations that were recommended. One location was somewhere here in the Union, and one location was somewhere in the library. Those are the 2 physical locations. While not perfect, a lot of people wanted to build a new building. I would love to build a new building too. But it would be a start. And what the task force kind of looked at is, if we can start something and demonstrate its success, then we can ask more and get more, maybe some funding to move forward. But those are a couple of questions that I knew that you were interested in. And really, that's all I have for you today, was just to share the retention news, and then to give you those couple of updates. Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of personal, but thank you so much for the work you do. Like, as someone who graduated high school with a sub-3 GPA, forced my family to really traditionally graduate from high school really, and to come to college and like having this kind of supports, like at least there, it really means a lot to me personally. It's like, as someone who doesn't have the supports in my life previously to university, I was wondering, in terms of like of what the backup retention looks like currently, what is the steps from here, I guess, to either increase it or to maintain it, just so it's something consistent throughout the next few years?
So a couple of things. The consistency is going to be huge, right? We have to make sure that this isn't just a blip, right? We have to make sure that we've been at 75 for 25 years, is 80, 81, 82, 83 our new norm, right? So that's one. So one of the things we're going to do is not discontinue any of the programs that we started last year and the year before. So all of those programs are moving forward. The other thing that we would love to be able to do is extend many of these programs into the sophomore, junior, and senior year. I would love to do alerts for all students. It would be wonderful, and I hear from faculty sometimes, you gave me a list of 10 students, but I have 15 more that need help. What can I do to help those 15? And they can help them, they can do things to help them, but it would be great to have some of these central campaigns to follow the students, so that you don't just get this support as a first-year student, but you get this support as your first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. Another example of that is, and I didn't mention it, but Bananas the Bear, that was texting you probably last year, texting you all different kind of, this is the last day of the withdrawal, or, probably wished you happy birthday. We stopped those text messages. We stopped that at the end of your first year. You probably got it going away saying, I'm sorry, I can't work with you anymore. I have to go meet my new set of students. It's because of funding. If we had more funding, then we could continue that relationship that many students had with this AI, this virtual bear. Because a lot of students, they didn't want to see it go. They actually said it was so helpful, so that, it would message you maybe one week and say, do you have any questions? You would write a question to the bear, and then someone would answer it, whether it was the bear, if the bear could answer it, or if not, it would come to me or someone else. And they said, if there's any way you could keep that so that you can use that in the second, third year, that would be great. So That really is kind of continuing those programs and hopefully extending those programs. The last thing that we are doing, and Tripp probably knows a little bit about this, but there's something called the National Institutes on Student Success. It is from Georgia State University. If you ever want to know who is like the guru of student success, it's Georgia State. And there was a grant that was provided to, from an anonymous donor in Massachusetts for Maine, for New England, but specifically Maine. And we will be working with the National Institutes on Student Success for the next 3 years. They're currently doing a diagnostics on us, looking at what kind of programs we have, what kind of programs we should have, what programs could we bring in that we don't quite have yet, to answer those questions of, once you get to 83, maintaining it, but then we want to make sure that the 83% of the students that stay, that they stay from their sophomore year to their junior year, and junior year to senior year, and senior year to graduate. So we will be working with this external group. It's not costing us any money at all because it is through funding, but they're doing a whole diagnostics. They're taking interviews. They're going to talk to students. We're going to have focus groups with students to talk and ask, what barriers do you have to, just being here at UMaine? What are the top barriers that you have, so that we can see if we can remove some of those barriers? So those are some things to make sure we keep this, but to also make sure that the students that are here continue to get that support throughout the rest of their time here. And I'm so glad that you felt the extra support.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the speaker? Representative Guzman?
Yeah, so just interested in the success program for the first year students. So you said, they give an alert. If, in 6 weeks, the communication between you and the professor is like, hey, this student may be on the verge of failing this class, or may not be succeeding in the way that they should. So, when it comes to communicating with professors, I'm just a little confused because I know some professors have stricter guidelines on like grading structure and being able to open up assignments. So have there been that lashback from professors in wanting to change that? And also with the program, would it be that the student has the opportunity to get full credit on those assignments that they, have missed and been able to catch up, or?
So you all know, right, that professors own the curriculum, and you could have the same course taught by 4 different professors, and it could look a little bit different, right, with each of them. So syllabi could look different and other things. But we don't tell the professor anything. What we ask the professor for is, we give them a list of the first year students, and then we say, are any of these students at risk in your class? And can you please tell us why? So they fill it out, and then when they hit the send button, it's called a success team. The success team that wraps around that student, they reach out to the student. Many times it's something that can be corrected, but in those situations where maybe the student has not done three assignments and they're behind, and if the faculty member doesn't allow them to either make up those for part credit or full credit, they may never be able to catch all the way up. That's not something that the staff, myself, or any of the staff get into those conversations. They do help students have those conversations. And I can tell you many times, faculty member, when a student comes to them and says, I know you did an alert. I heard from my success team. Is there anything I can do to help lift my grade? Many faculty are very willing to do that. Now, not all faculty are going to do that. Some faculty might say, well, I'm sorry. But many faculty, it's really a one-on-one communication between the student and the faculty member. But the staff is there also to support the students, because especially first-year students, they may have never had to talk to a faculty member before. And how do you actually even go up to a faculty member? Where do you find a faculty member? All of these things. And so the staff will wrap themselves around and help the student. And then they'll follow up with the student and say, you said you were going to go meet with the faculty member. Did you meet with the faculty member? And so they have those conversations. Does that help?
Yeah.
Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you for your time and coming.
one thing that this does, this flyer, and I would have made a new one for you, but I just came back from New York. My dad's favorite team is the Dodgers. I know you might be Yankee fans, but my dad's favorite team is the Dodgers. And my young son and I drove to New York, and my dad was flying from California to New York for the World Series game, so I wasn't able to make a new flyer. But one of the things that this doesn't say, you can see this was made for faculty and staff, is one of the things is every one of those 83.4 students, and it ends up being about 120 students, if more students than would have been if it was the 76%. While we are building these supports around, where the things also really needs to go is to the students. It needs to go to the students for being receptive to the support, reaching out to faculty and actually persevering over so many situations that administrators and faculty, we have no idea what you all are going through sometimes. And sometimes these alerts and these things that we do opens that communication door to allow people to know. So I want to thank all of you personally as well for your support. You guys have been remarkable to work with over the year and a half that I've been here, and I hope we can continue to have this relationship. So thank you.
And you're more than welcome to stay, you're more than welcome to leave, so.
Thanks, I'm gonna take them home.
Yeah. We will now move on to executive report, Senator Waters.
A motion to limit reports to 3 minutes.
Second. If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debate? Senator Waters?
If I put it to 2 minutes next week, would people be like mad? Or-
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
3 minutes is like the top that was there.
Sorry.
Okay.
Any other debate? Representative Merchant?
This is not less a debate, it's more like a question. That thing that you did last time when you yielded that time, I'm sorry, President Tripp had ran out of time. Is that the standard norm within the Robert rules or?
No, I think that was a.
That's because he's the president.
Okay.
Any other debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. All reports will be timed 3 minutes by announcement.
Okay.
We will now move on into executive reports, starting with the president.
Perfect. All right. First off, I have a few housekeeping things. Number one, thank you for those who came to the vigil on Monday, or I guess that was yesterday. Yeah, the weeks are blurring together already. I really appreciate it. It was a very nice ceremony, and Jeremy's in the room as well. I think we should have a round of applause for him. Awesome. Next, the locks arrived, the little tiny rainbow locks that I bought, which is super exciting for me. So I'm going to be working with the VPSL and DOC to get the word out. My gosh, to get the word out about the club storage situation. But beforehand, I have Sean working on a waiver, and I'm working on that banned list of stuff that they can't bring, like weapons and food. But I'll have that, you guys will see that at some point. Great job membership on the little treats today and everyone in their costumes. It's exciting to see. And before I start on my traditional stuff, I want to wish everybody a happy and safe Halloween weekend. Please take care of each other. Moving on, I had my first meeting with BOT Rep Britton, VPFA Bois, and myself with VP Sparks. We started conversations about the university budget. We discussed our budget and ways that the financial office can assist us with kind of financial planning, which is exciting. I'll let VPFA Bois elaborate on that. I also brought up concerns about the strategic re-envisionment, which kind of moves into my next bit, which is I've heard your concerns about the strategic re-envisionment process. I share them. Students are not involved enough. I sent an email to Dean Dana requesting that myself and Vice President Peterson be included in cabinet updates on the matter. It's a cabinetorial level reporting. And I know that there's been, there had to have at some point been 1 or 2 updates. And I think that myself and Peterson should be involved. And we're going to be working on making sure that there's more student engagement in that and expressing those concerns. Moving forward, Sophia from the main campus is here to take your picture during the 5-minute recess, senators. Yes, clap, clap, clap. stop, I only have 3 minutes, and then also, I'm just picking back up the Silly Bank project with Senator Thompson and the Academic Affairs Committee. I'm sure he'll elaborate with that. The VPSO situation and timeline, I have one. I would suggest that the senator during new business starts some like 5-minute discussion. It really won't take long, but I can outline that. I only have time in my report. And also I'm starting, myself and DOT Britain, or if he's Britain, a BOT rep Britain, had a meeting with the chair of the student trustee selection committee to start conversations about what went wrong. And we will be setting up a meeting with Chair Riley and Sam Warren, to begin writing up a policy that, can be followed, one that's less, all over the place, and hopefully next time we'll be able to successful student, candidates. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. My report is super short. I'd like to thank all the senators that have continued to schedule their one-on-one meetings with me. Those are meant to ensure that you're getting the resources and support that you deserve. For all the people who haven't had them yet, but are still at least communicating with me, I appreciate it. As for the couple of people who haven't scheduled them, I'd like to have them with you before the end of the week. So if there's anything that you need, just please reach out to me. Yeah, under my report. We will now move on to what's Vice President for Financial Affairs.
All right, everyone. So this week has been it's been a successful one. So forms are starting to go up onto the website. So I don't know if it's live yet. It is live. So if you go to the financial affairs tab, there's now an additional portion where we're going to start putting all of the forms for like all the universities, all of the colleges, all the departments. So that other folks can go there, they start getting more information. But that'll be reoccurring and updating hopefully for the rest of this year. In addition, Pants had a little rework on their approved budget. It's just renaming one of the labels from pizza recruiting to social events. Because the previous name did not allow them to spend money on what was really required. So that was just a change. It's a line item with 1,500, but it's a quick look about it. And then yes, going back to what President Tripp said, we had a meeting with VP Sparks. And on our end, it's very exciting. She says that her office and her employees can help us get some financial modeling in to help us predict our unallocated a lot better. So that we have a more concrete stance of the following years. So hopefully that will help restrict something from like this year happening again. And then yes, that piggybacks onto that. I'm joining the Budgetary Advisory Committee. Do the same, so you'll be getting little updates from me when those meetings start to happen. Your report.
Vice President for Student Organizations.
Yeah, we had 3 clubs at SOC today, which you obviously all heard today. I was going to okay, end report. I'll
Vice President of Student Entertainment.
Howdy, partners. So. Yeah, they're talking. Anyways, the show is still running along smoothly. Last week I had a trip across the greater Bangor area with Pam to get stuff for the show, so that was an adventure. I had to go on a wild goose chase to get a specific type of water, so that was fun. Adventures all around. So far, 415 people have registered, which is fine. We're still trying to get that up. We were supposed to do tabling this week, but they rejected all of our tabling requests, so that's so exciting. But we're gonna continue to plug it on social media this week. This week is the last, Thursday is the last day Thursday at midnight is the last day that people can register through campus groups, because I have to send the list over to the guy in the CCA so he can start sending out like the mobile tickets to people, but students can still go to the box office and get tickets. But yeah, so we're like a week out from the show and I think it's gonna be successful. As for movie tickets, we are going to discuss this later, but as of right now, 321 people went last week, which is our first 300, and that's not exciting. Or it's exciting, depends, I don't know. And then we talked about the Halloween weekend and our involvement in the escape room, and we have some fun things going along with that. Senator McLean is making a song for this. We're going all out. The goal is to try to make it as hard as possible and to have as many red herrings as possible. So that's the goal. And then, yeah, oh, wait, this is the very exciting thing is that 6 people went to SEC this week. That's the most I've ever had. Very exciting. End of report.
Thank you. Vice President for Student Leadership.
Happy early Halloween, everyone. I've been working on the leadership scholarship. You'll see some of that. This is the wrong report, my bad. But you'll see some of that tonight. I'll just have a quick discussion on it. And then I'm also working on a different project in SLC. Just sort of initial planning phases. I also reached out to some people about the Senate retreat and presenting and being sort of the part of the professional development aspect. But we're still looking to figure out what we want to do for something a little more fun after the fact. So if you have any ideas, let me know. Likely I'll send out a Google form as well with some of the ideas that SLC has come up with. And just a reminder to everyone that you do need to fulfill your requirements. And that includes going to major committees because I know they need people going to them more than they have. Shout out to policy and procedure because we need people to go to policy and procedure to get business done. They need 4 people for quorum, and I don't think they've had that at all this year. So please start going to policy and procedure. End of report.
And just to add on to that, as the president of the Senate, if you're hesitant or nervous to attend these committees or to engage in student government, literally the only way you can get comfortable is if you dive in and start participating. End of that second report. Advisor to student government.
Hi, everyone. If you need tables, come see me. I'll get you tables. Do you want one tomorrow? Great, you got it. Nonsense. All right, also raise your hand if you're sick of me sending you emails about voting. There's a few of you, good, buckle up, there's a bunch more coming. So, when is early voting, everyone? Tomorrow. When is that?
9 to 3.
So that is tomorrow. If you are an Orono resident, if you are not a Orono resident, you have to go to the town that you live in. If you are, you still claim your home, which is not Orono, to be your home, it still is appropriate for you to register and vote in Orono because you will be living here more than 6 months and 1 day. So it is okay for you to register to vote here. You don't have to change your car registration and your license and all that stuff, but it is appropriate. So, because you will physically live here more than 6 months. So that's early voting. When's election day?
November 5th.
November 5th, where's that?
CCA.
Awesome. Okay, same information there. You can register on the day of. If you have a piece of mail or an ID that says that you live in Orono, great, bring it. If you don't and you live on campus, we will look you up in your occupancy or on Main Street and prove that you live there that way. I'll be there all day. Come see me if you need anything. That's pretty much it. Oh, be safe this weekend for Halloween.
Are there any questions for the speakers? Senator Chang?
Does Vice President Rocky have more of the report? No.
Okay. Representative Britton?
Is speaking of anything else.
I do. I kind of skipped over the whole page. Our starting unallocated is $59,143.66. I made one transfer from professional classes of $162 to corporate insurance because bills. And then we have one office budget in the consent agenda and backcountry squatters coming for some rentals for storage. And then later today, you will hear from Black Student Union requesting money for a trip to Boston.
Now, any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move into periodic reports, starting with the faculty senate student rep.
Yeah, so I have a report today. For the strategic envisioning, re-envisionment plan, they are starting phase 2 and they are making a just do it list, things that they can get done in a short term that will things that they can get done in short term. A multi-year review for the university is coming out this week, if anybody is curious in that. I have information on the new provost, so they are creating a search committee now, as our associate president stated. The specific date for one to start, the goal is April 1st, 2025, but dates can vary. They are looking to get as many people from as many different departments in the university as possible to get a new provost, so hopefully everybody will be represented in that. The accessibility support leader is leaving, unfortunately. There are a lot of positions that are unfilled higher up, such as the dean of the College for Human Development. Those are being worked on, but there was not anything specific stated during the meeting. I also had the retention rate on here, which is yay. There were a couple questions about the mental health committee there. There are a couple rumors going around that the mental health committee has a massive wait list or is refusing people. Those are not true. They are fully staffed and there is not a wait list. And if you're having an extreme emergency, you can get in the day you walk into that center. So use it. They are also looking into telehealth, but there was nothing concrete at the meeting, but that is something they're looking into. And then next, there is going to be a renewal of the Zoom contract. So we will be doing a couple of years as well, so you don't have to get used to anything else. There is a repaving on Main Street for easier transfer credits for transfer students. And the goal for that to be fully done is by fall of next year, so fall of 2025. They are trying to lessen surveys. We're all getting tens of thousands of surveys and not very many people have responded to them and they're taking that as a positive thing as we don't have anything to say. So if you have something negative to say, they say it. Unfortunately, they're talking about gen eds. Right now, they are considering, and it's being brought up in the academic affairs committee meeting, which is actually tomorrow. So if you have an opinion on this, please come. One class can only count for one gen ed requirement. That is what they're looking into right now. They have talked to the business and engineering schools about this. And so they still have to talk to the other college departments, but if you have an opinion on that, as I'm sure a lot of us do, please come tomorrow. If you want the date and time or the location and time, let me know. Teacher.
That is 3 minutes. Next, we will move on to the chair of fair election practices. Oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. We'll move on to the Maine Board of Trustees.
Hi, everyone. As President mentioned, he and I met with the graduate student who was the co-chair of the trustee selection committee to try and learn a little bit more about what went wrong in the graduate student candidate choice. And at this point, we are glad that at least the undergrad job, like the job of undergrad student government, has been fulfilled, and we have an appointed undergrad student. He was at the special board meeting this past weekend, which was cool to see him there. But that being said, we're going to support the graduate student selection as much as we can without actually choosing a graduate student. And we're going to work with the board and the governor's office to try and outline a more official process for selecting these candidates, since it's sort of failed to happen twice now. Just so that we can avoid any miscommunications in the future choosing candidates. Then I went to the special board meeting. It was 16 minutes long and was just reviewing the fiscal year 24 summary. And there was nothing that surprising to me, at least, that I thought anyone needed to know, but my report has been uploaded and the full presentation is on the report.
Now we will do the chair of the fair election practices.
Okay, hi everyone. This week I've been getting the template for the ballots ready, and all I have to do now is add your bios once you send them in to me. So please make sure if you haven't yet, please send them in to me by next Wednesday. And next week I will be doing the drawing of the order of the ballot. If you didn't know, I have to publicly announce how the ballot will be arranged, like in what order the names will appear on your end. And so that'll happen next week. It'll take like 2 minutes. Other than that, an Instagram post was made today, thank you, DSC Abby, downer, sorry. And so, it's also been in the newsletter that VPSL Oldfield has been sending out, about the nomination deadline. So, the general student body should be aware of the upcoming deadline. But if you hear any questions, send them my way. And
Next, student legal representative. Representative to the grad student senate.
Good evening, everyone. GSD held their meeting last Friday on the 5th, with the main discussion being the motion of no confidence. I have the document that will pull up, but while doing that, so the motion of no confidence had been released and it's directed towards Cody Bahraman, who is the dean of the graduate school. These were grievances that were being issued, some of them being of understanding of lack of leadership and attending meetings and setting someone in place of his role to attend, and that being Scott Delcourt as the representative for his office. There was also a shifting of funding for the master's program to PhD in wake of goals, trying to maintain the R1 status within the graduate school, which the two students who have brought this deemed them as haphazardly and little foresight, having been negative to undergraduate, graduate, faculty, and staff researchers who make R1 possible. Another little detail that I didn't put into my report was the fact that there was some unsubscribing to databases for like periodicals, researches, dissertations, things like that, like sites like JSTOR and Muse. I don't think those are like going away as far as I know, but it's like other lesser known sites. There was yeah, so that was mentioned last Friday, and they will be voting on that in 2 weeks. I have looked around to see if there was like a statement that was issued by like the graduate, like student government or just the graduate school in general. Nothing has been said. I mean, granted, this was Friday, so when the statement is issued, I'll be saying that next week. Moving on from that, there was discussions related to University Park, which was there was like some rumors that were going around last semester. And the reason why University Park is really important was because it was created post World War II for a GI Bill for soldiers coming home who wanted to finish or start their degrees. With that in mind, many of the buildings were old and had either been needing to be renovated or had to be torn down, many of which were torn down. This because of it, there was many rumors rolling around of the fact that the University Park was going to be demolished like completely by 2025. That's not happening. And in place of this, or at least the actual concrete plan, was that with the housing study that was created, they released a new concept map of what we put in placing of the housing area, which is implementing renewable building strategies such as the 3D printing technique, which is pretty cool. Of course, the finalization of this concept is being delayed until November, but
That is 3 minutes. Next, we'll move on to the Orono Town Council liaison.
Okay, a large portion of the most recent Orono Town Council meeting was devoted to the renovation, expansion, and demolition of the Orono Public Library, which is expected to be completed in late 2026, with construction starting late next August. The rest of the meeting was dedicated to the new city manager and the rest of the other council department leaders sharing their next goals, sort of what we did on our second meeting here. Circling back to the good news about the new library, I have a copy of the final designs that what it's gonna look like, and it's really cool. They like superimpose the current building with the new expansions, and it's very ambitious of them and a proposal.
Old Town City Council.
No.
Representative of Military and Veteran Affairs.
All the information regarding the Memorial Day volunteering opportunity has been forwarded to all officers of NRTC and RTC. And once I get a figure of how many cadets that I can support, I'll be reaching out to Old Town to extend the volunteering to their cemeteries as well. And
Communications.
So I posted the first Meet Your Senator Monday post, on Monday. And I also printed some flyers that I made for the DOT. I'm working on, I'm gonna post a club spotlight, to a story, sometime next week. And I'm also going to be working with the PPFA to make a video on some financial stuff. And move forward.
Technology.
Alrighty, howdy y'all, so jumping right into it, since we last spoke, okay, I mean, I guess I don't know how walruses like do stuff, so maybe I do like Dylan, but yeah, jumping into it. I put a website banner up to advertise, PPSC leading, well, the Trevor Wallace show. Worked with PPS at Rocky, put new links, sorry. That's what I was gonna say. You're right. Put new campus groups formed onto our website, so they're all set. Did little things like update UI, you know. No, none of you will care, but I care. It's like so. Anyways, work with VPFA Block to update their webpage as he's already spoken, put up requested forms. And lastly, I worked with our IFC and handheld reps to update our website's Greek life webpage, where I've been slowly but surely getting responses from fraternities and sororities over the past few days. And updating their information accordingly, so that's been fun. Big shout out to them though, like thank you so much, because there's no way I could find any of those contacts on my own unless I spent a solid week on it just digging, so thank you. And yeah, other than that, just small things that trust me, no one will be interested. And a report.
Security representative.
Well, last week at the Space Committee meeting, we discussed the annual call and changes being made to the process of funding requests. Currently with the draft, there are regulations to who can submit forms or requests, and some are only reserved for people who are in the executive cabinet and deans. The first category is called the break fix, where it states that anyone can submit for it, but we felt this was too vague. And so we're going to create a form exclusively for students to be able to request for projects done on campus, or fixes that go beyond maintenance requests that fits into the annual call. This is relevant to security. As I mentioned, a lack of chain of command when it came to the projects that I wanted to do within my position. And this adaptation for students would be the solution. It'd be recommended to students that they would like to submit things to talk to student government members to be more, as we may be more informed on things that they want to see improved. But I do see this being really helpful for all of us. Another example would be Vice President Oldfield's project for the garden and seating spot on the northern part of campus. And this would be the place for that request to go, where the Space Committee will then personally go through them and be able to fit them into the school's budget. Next week, I'll be presenting a write-up of my proposal for the speed bumps on the Long Road. For the Space Committee, where we'll be using it as an example of how we should be judging the validity of projects and how we'd like to create the student forum. End of report.
Cougarman. No report. Are there any questions for the speakers? FEPC chair?
Can the name of the student that has been appointed to the BOT, the Board of Trustees to be their like speaker, whatever, can that be announced yet?
Oh, yeah. Let me make sure I have his last name right. And I'll tell you.
Any other questions for the speaker? Representative Balea?
Am I allowed to ask a question about part of a report that someone didn't get to say, but that I saw written down as part of their report? Like an actual question I have.
Yeah.
Senator Sparks, I saw that you had written down that they talked about concerns about professors using AI to grade. That's just an unsubstantiated rumor. Please confirm.
Yeah, that's not a thing that's happening at our university. It's a thing that's been happening in the school districts around in this area. So they're looking into, they're basically researching the idea of it. It is not happening here, though. Your professors are not doing that. So please don't go up to your professor and be like, give me a better grade. I know you used AI.
Any other questions for the speakers? Representative Merchant?
Yeah, so this is also directed towards Senator Sparks. Did you mention anything at all about like the recent, like, I don't know if it's in your purview, but like the recent construction project that's happening near the, oh gosh, the Composite Center and the 3D printed house?
No, but I can ask about it. Do you have a specific question you want me to ask about?
If they can try to like push back the borders a little bit, because I've had 3 close calls when moving, like getting out of like the parking spaces. Like I inched out and I got nearly hit 3 times, which is great because I don't want to get hit. So yeah.
Any other questions for the speakers? Representative Britton?
His name is Will Kilmer, and he's a student at UMSG.
Any other questions for the speakers? FEPC Chair?
This is for Senator Shelmerdine. You've been a part of the conversation of UMPD getting care dogs on their staff for student use. I don't remember what they're called. It's like therapy dogs almost.
No, I haven't heard of that. The only similar thing that I've been in conversation about is just their continued mental health outreach, but not specifically the dogs.
Advisor Sadoko?
So the therapy dogs will be coming back to that library, but also the police are trying very hard right now to get a comfort dog. There was one on campus yesterday, his name was Major, super cute. But they have to do a fundraising project in order for us to get one, but that is gonna be happening.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move into reports of standing committees, starting with marketing and public relations. Membership.
All right, guys, we're gonna have a sweet treat tonight. I hope you guys have a sweet tooth because we need to cut down on this during recess. I think most of hot chocolate probably down, so if you want that, grab it as soon as possible, and then there's some apple juice because we have money, but not enough for apple cider, so. But seriously, in that respect, we are with regards to our membership budget, saving money each week, so hopefully that means for if you all feel we should have some more to allocate towards the Senate retreat. Or we can just go like following like the last couple meetings and go crazy with something, but I hope you guys are all good with the food right now. I know it's very sweet this week, but also thank you Pam, because she's sick right now, but she went to Sam's Club and bought all of this stuff this morning, so. And also, I sent out the Google form for dietary restrictions. Even if you don't have that, just fill it out. I can send it back in the chat again, so you guys can see that, and report.
Policy and procedure.
No report.
Political activism.
All right, so, well, 1 week to election day, college Democrats were dealing with political spot, cared enough to get back to me. So they're having a meet the candidates meeting tomorrow in Tottenham Room, right over there, with, I believe it's Representative Osher and Senator Tipping, who they have endorsed. Governor Mills is also, I believe, positively scheduled to come to campus on Saturday at 10. Prior to Culture Fest for an hour or so. I don't know, do you know where she's going to be?
On the front steps of Fogler.
In front steps of Fogler, okay, there we go. Yeah, early voting is tomorrow. And you can register same day here in Maine, so if you haven't registered yet, don't worry about it. And report.
Services.
No report.
Academic affairs.
Hey guys, as Keegan mentioned in his report, we meant to start talking about how to continue the work of the Syllabus Bank project. For those of you who weren't here last year and might not know what this means, a syllabus bank is a library where students can go and access past syllabi for courses to get an idea of how a course functions before signing on to it. If you want to get involved, the conversation around this is going to be starting in my committee and then potentially break off into a focus group so we can dedicate more time to it outside of regular meetings. Make sure to come to academic affairs and you be in this conversation. Or drop in at any time if there's other academic conversations you want to have in the report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speakers? Senator Martin?
Question for Senator Fuzzle, you still need a piece of mail for same day voting, right? I mean, same day registration for voting.
Yes, but if you don't have one, they have a database of where everybody on campus lives and they can just look you up and make sure you live on campus.
Great.
President Tripp?
Following up from last last week's question, have you gotten in touch with Bridge USA?
No, okay, we'll do that.
I also have a question, for all the clubs that you haven't been able to reach out to, have you tried coordinating with the VPSO to get any contact information or?
Not yet, no, I mean, I know I have their emails, I know what the email from the leaders are, but they just have not responded. This was a problem last semester too, so, you know.
Any other questions for the speaker? Representative Merchant?
Yeah, a point of information, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to bring it up. I did see there was a bridge event, and you probably get to take your reins on it if you find it first, remember it. Bridge was holding an event. Discussion on the 2024 election on never mind, it was last week on the 24th.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move into reports of special committees, starting with student mental health.
Hi, everyone. And don't mind this awful wig that everyone ate on me. And I will send it to you later. I completely forgot to, but we met yesterday to discuss long-term and short-term goals that can be accomplished. One is to make surveys to distribute to the broader campus community to receive anonymous feedback about mental health resources on and off campus and see what we can do. We also plan to create action plans to hold resources such as like Residence Life accountable and talk to the people who run them, such as Amy Bowen, and talk to the counseling center just to see if there's anything we can do to help get the word out about stuff. Also, thank you, Senator Sparks, for that information. I did recently hear about that as well. If anyone outside the committee is interested in volunteering at the Healthy Sex Casino mocktail bar, let me know. And I'll send out the Google form. I sent it to everybody who is in the mental health committee, but I will send it to the wider group if anybody is interested. End of report.
Undergraduate Student Symposium.
Meeting is tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Anybody who wants to come by, go by the Wade Center and just be involved in research on campus and report.
Food and dining affairs. Second.
Hi, guys. I'm Hayden Buzzle, by the way, for anyone wondering. Okay, so hi guys, the letter report for this week. First off, congrats to Human Jordan Thompson for getting a kiwi bot named after him. So today Senator Cowan and I met with Cole and Francis from the UMaine Dining Marketing team. And we brainstormed ways for them to more effectively use the Instagram to direct students to resources. We had lengthy discussions about the oatmeal day today, by the way, stories. And I left feeling very bad that they have corporate overlords to deal with. Joke. Moving forward, my committee and I will be meeting with them regularly and helping them turn their social media into a resource for students and not something that you keep forgetting to unfollow but really wanting. Senator Cowan and I have also been invited to join their meetings with the corporate overlords and help them convince them, help them convince Sodexo to let them make the Instagram more fun. Hopefully by showing them that the student body is not receptive to Kale Day. We're also working on putting suggestion boxes in the dining halls. This is something that they beta tested last semester. They did not feel that they were successful, but my committee and I are bringing them suggestions. Hopefully have these be more effective this year. Finally, I'm working on putting Human Jordan Thompson in touch with the KiwiBot people. So hopefully we'll see some fun posts featuring both of them later this week. Hashtag Brat KiwiBot, hashtags are back. End of report.
Are there any questions for the speakers? Representative Guzman.
Yeah, I'm actually friends with the Cuba people. I actually went out for a drink with them last semester. I actually have their number if you want that.
They live here?
And they live here.
Do they live like in this building here?
No, yeah.
I feel like they live here.
So actually, right down the main campus hallway.
Yeah, no, I know that.
You could just walk in and say what's up to them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've been in contact with them.
Okay, yeah. I had a cue bot in a video last week for my jobs.
Senator Martin.
Question for Senator Payne. What do they not feel like is working with the suggestion box? Because I made a suggestion last year to put Old Bay in your dining room. And 3 weeks later, it was there.
So specifically, their issue with suggestion boxes is that Matt checks his email every night and he tries to get back to people about urgent things. So if he gets an email that says, the dining worker was really rude to me, or the chicken was raw, something like that, he wants to be able to respond to that immediately. Whereas a suggestion box, he might check once a week. Another thing is that last year he got too many post-its who said the food is bad, you guys suck, and that was a lot for him to work through. So some of the suggestions my committee and I will bring to him are putting like his email very big on the suggestion boxes, so people will hopefully know that if it's urgent, if it's something you want an immediate response to, you can email him. If it's something small, like I thought the chicken wasn't seasoned enough, that you can throw in a suggestion box. And also my committee will dedicate some time to sorting through all the mean ones. We'll have a lot of fun doing that, honestly, more than he would. So that's sort of the two suggestions I have to help resolve those issues.
Thank you.
Senator Waters.
So there, and to understand correctly, their corporate Sodexo is making them put vague, scary Instagram stories up against their will?
I need to not get me or UMSG sued when I speak about this. To my understanding, they are sent suggestions from people higher up that the higher ups would like to see posted on the Instagram. My concern with these, as well as some other senators that have brought this up to me, shout out to Rich Dundergarn, is that these posts do not provide information at all and are not conducive to it. Why am I saying conducive? They're not providing any information and they clog up your feed, and more people will make people want to not follow the Instagram, whereas we want Instagram to be useful and people to be able to get good information from it.
Senator Waters.
It's oatmeal day. I saw that too.
I'm trying not to take up too much time. That is something that in all seriousness, Senator Cowan and I talked a lot about, because my big issue with these stories, for anyone, I can drop Pale Day in the space if anyone wants to look at it. It's so stupid. But my issue with these is, it is just like a square, but it's a square, but they put it on a story, first of all. It's a square that just says oatmeal day. It doesn't go, today is National Oatmeal Day. It doesn't say, today is National Oatmeal Day, we had oatmeal in York or Hilltop for breakfast. It just says oatmeal day. And so it's not even advertising the dining halls per se. It's not really presenting information to you. I wasn't sure if today was oatmeal day, like actually, or if they just wanted to tell us they like me. So that's something that I really want to work on. If they're gonna have to keep putting out these National Food Day posts, at least integrate them into the dining plan of the day or something.
Are there any other questions for the speaker, Senator Cowan?
I have a question for Senator Fang. I believe in that meeting that I was at, we touched upon them using the Instagram to provide resources or direct students to where they could get resources for dietary restrictions. Would you like to expand upon that?
Yeah, sure. So the main things are, we talked about in terms of resources for students, the first pinned post is, well, these are suggestions. I want to make clear that Senator Cowan and I presented to them, and how receptive they are, or whether or not they are allowed to do this in terms of certain restrictions and contracts is other thing that I will hopefully get more information on. But what Senator Cowan and I proposed is the first post on Instagram that's pinned is just a post that directs you to the Sodexo dietitian. What are your options if you have dietary restrictions? Yeah, what are your options? You know, what can Sodexo do for you? Who can you reach out to? We also talked about maybe putting the menu up, not like a full thing, but just, you know, what is the basic entree at each of the dining halls for each of the meals? Just like even a Canva template, something like that. So people who are just tapping their Instagram have quick and easy information to them. As well as we talked a lot about like humanizing the Sodexo people. I use that word so much, but it's really easy to treat Sodexo as this corporate entity, especially because they came and they made dining so bad. But every time I meet with one of the dining people, they're very nice, and I'd like to put for this general student body, put a face to the name and be able to feel comfortable reaching out to people like Matt or Francis or Krista when they have issues.
Are there any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we will move into representative board reports, starting with commuter and non-traditional students.
We have movie night and sorry. BPFA, sorry, had already outlined that little line item, so that's just about it.
Honors college?
Hello, happy Halloween. Yesterday we had pumpkin painting. It kind of went okay. It went as well as it could. I did have to take home 5 pumpkins, plus, but that is all right. I love pumpkins, so. We have a joint event with the Honors College RAs coming up on November 21st. It was going to be a movie night, but licensing is expensive. It was like $300 for a single movie or something, so we're not doing that, but we're instead doing trivia. Which I think will actually be better because Honors College and we're all into that. November 12th to the 22nd is the It's Personal campaign again. Please consider, UMSG, I feel, should consider signing up to be a group to participate. You did?
I don't have a lot of time in my.
Tell me that, that's amazing. Okay. I'm so happy now, okay. I'm gonna skip that then. Maine Day Meal Pack out, get excited, it's still really far away, but I'm really excited for it. Raffle will be happening soon, I believe some point in November. I think it's, for some reason, I recall the 25th, to raise money, and we have a whole bunch of fun goodies and baskets. A big hit last year was a Made in Maine one, where it's all Maine made goods, and we're doing that again. So look out for that, I'll keep updated on I'll keep everybody updated. And we'll also be going to the Old Town Rotary at some point in December to talk to them, get the word out, and then help spread it to the wider community. I'm also gonna reach out personally about maybe doing some food insecurity panels, to talk about those issues, and to report.
Interfraternity council?
So Greek Week was a really big success last week. We had a huge increase in participation from all the chapters compared to the last couple of Greek Weeks, which is awesome to see. The winners were Team 3, which consisted of Beta Theta Pi, Chi Omega, and Phi Mu. And IFC executive board applications are gonna be opening up soon. End of board.
Panhellenic council?
Like Jacob said, we had a really successful Greek week, and we wanted to thank President Trump and everyone else who attended our event on Friday. Everyone had such positive things to say about the knocker balls. And panel applications close on October 31st. We've been holding interviews for all of the applicants, and then our slate comes out on the 6th. End of report.
Senior class council? Student athletic advisory.
So some game results over the past week. Hockey beat Northwestern, football lost to URI, field hockey lost to UAlbany, but clinched a championship spot, and soccer tied with NJIT this Sunday. Some SAC specific news. So SAC had their October meeting last Wednesday. It's pretty fun, painted some pumpkins. And SAC is continuing with 50-50 fundraising this weekend, mainly working the hockey games to fundraise a little more money. Upcoming games and meets we have coming up. Hockey will go against Merrimack for a 2-game series this Friday and Saturday at home. Football will face Oklahoma this Saturday at Oklahoma. Fingers crossed. We may pull through. We may pull through. Cross country will have their championship meet at Burlington this Saturday. Men's swim and dive will have an away meet at Norwich. Women's swim and dive will have an away meet at UVM. Field hockey will face UNH at home this Friday. Soccer will have their final match against UNH this Thursday at UNH. Women's ice hockey will face UVM this weekend, and women's basketball will begin competition against LaSalle this weekend. And a report.
Are there any questions for the speakers? President Tripp.
No individual questions, but I wanted to say congrats on your individual chapter wins for Greek Week. You said Chi and Beta? Yeah. Nice, all right. Round of applause for that.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on to community association reports, starting with Shaq.
Yeah, so before I start this, Cam, I'm gonna send you this, so you don't have to write it down. So essentially, I'm gonna start by basically reporting on all the organizations. So all the organizations are part of Shaq, which are, you know, currently Hello, ASA, Japanese Club, Casa, Farag, BSU, SAM, French Club, Mara UN, Spanish Club. BSU, I don't know if anyone else, but are having their regular meetings, and having the attendance show up for the meetings. But in terms of like specific news that should be spotlighted, ASA, has started conversations with Student Life. I don't know if you have more information about this, Lori, because Tiffany kind of gave a rundown during our shack meeting actually before this. That they're planning a big Lunar New Year celebration, with basically like tents and a big dragon dance and food and fireworks. So that's currently in the talks and maybe be a thing that happens and is huge. So more information on that as it comes. Hello, in their last week's meeting, their VP gave a presentation on Judaism and its origins, and agricultural kind of component to it, and talked about harvest, and gave out calendars about the harvest season. And then BSU talking tonight, as well, and still fundraising for the Boston trip as well. So big news, so Sam had their Diwali event on Saturday, and they had about 95 to 100 people attend, so huge multicultural win. Additionally, Model UN is making moves on their funding for their conference trip to UPenn. And then with that, Spanish Club is also having a collaboration with the Department of Modern Languages and Classics for Dia de los Muertos. They did that on November 2nd. Or past November 2nd. Continuing on, the multicultural groups will be at Culture Fest. So ASA, Japanese Club, Farag, BSU, SAM, Spanish Club, and CALSA will all have individual tables, which I'm pretty sure Kai will talk about later as well. In terms of Shack news, I met with Daisy Singh. I gotta speed this up. Daisy Singh to talk about the potential advisor role and her basic role as being the advisor of Shack. So she will be in attendance at the next Shack meeting to kind of just pan out the role, get voted in, all the formalities that come associated with that. I've also been talking with Gordon from Wells to do a similar event that Interfraternity and Pan did, which was their open mic night, but instead do a multicultural open mic night. So bring all the multicultural groups in and kind of do a similar event to what you did. And I met with Anila last week as well to kind of get moving on Culture Fest, which has a tentative date of November 21st.
That is 3 minutes.
There we go.
Next, Wildstein.
We have approved and started processing our first disbursement from the Wildstein Fund, an alumni started fund for financially assisting Wildstein members in needs based on mental health, gender transitioning, or other queer issues. Thank you. End of report.
International Student Association.
Wells Craft Fair was a big success. Everyone liked the donuts. And they were on what time with a lot of people coming. For this week, we keeping it simple and sticking with food from Dunkin' Donuts again, since everyone liked it so much. Culture Fest happening this Saturday, so everyone should come from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. in the Breck Center. And it's a great event where people, mostly students from different countries, share their cultures through food exhibit and tables and performances. And I still will have a fundraising table with drinks, and I'll be hosting an exhibit table as well, Catholic table. So be sure to stop by, and we hope to see many of you at Culture Fest on Saturday.
Are there any questions for the speakers? FEPC Chair?
This is directed towards Representative Guzman. It was brought up in one of our first meetings this session that Sam isn't recognized by, I believe it's student government. However, they're still sitting on the board. Are they planning to seek recognition?
Oh, okay.
Are there any other questions for the speakers? President Kirk?
I just have a policy question. Are non-recognized clubs allowed to sit on chat? Yes, according to your bylaws? Yeah.
According to the bylaws, yeah. So in the okay, guys, for context. The Shack bylaws are not the best looking bylaws that you will get around. So a lot of work has to be done on them. Unfortunately, the exec board and specifically me have not been able to get around to, touching it up and putting in, provisions to prevent Shack from, dying again if that ever happens. So yes. it does allow for that because there's no formal language in the document that says. Makes sense.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, if it is the pleasure of the Senate, we'll enter a recess, but I'm not gonna start that 5-minute timer until after we get a good photo taken. Is it the pleasure of the Senate? Yes, thank you. All right, we will reconvene DVD.
We're doing a.
I now call the meeting back to order. I am looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda. Senator Ricker?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Seeing nothing in new business or unfinished business, we will now move into new business with 45S EBC 125 and act to allocate funds to the Black Student Union. Senator Ricker?
I move to suspend the vote to add a discussion on VPS my cousin trip in new business.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debate? All those in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. We will now return to 45S EBC and act to allocate funds to the Black Student Union. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, guys. My name is Adora Elisa, and I am the secretary of the Black Student Union.
And my name is Dagana Diora, and I'm the treasurer.
So the Black Student Union aims to foster supportive and inclusive environment for Black students, celebrating our cultural heritage while advocating for equity and social justice on campus by creating a space where voices are amplified and diverse perspectives are validated. The purpose of our fund request was because the Black Student Union is seeking support from UMSG for an educational trip to Boston. The trip aims to enhance cultural understanding and provide students with opportunities for engagement within historical sites and institutions significant to Black history and heritage. By visiting Boston, members hope to foster community, broaden their perspectives, and create a deeper connection to their heritage. Adequate funds are essential to ensure safe travel and meaningful experiences for all participants. We as the executive board reviewed the proposed partial amount of funding requested. And before our general statement is said, we wanted to ask a specific question within the proposed amount in order to, clear up any questions that we had. So we thank the student government for being able to cover at least transportation for Boston. But we're also wondering, the $500 for hotel rooms, we were wondering how those $500 could be split up between 16 students on the budgeted amount of hotel rooms. If anyone is able to answer.
Sure, so UBC ended up amending it down to 500 because the amount that was allocated, the original amount, which was $2,159.84, was a lot of money for 4 rooms for one night essentially. And we thought there could be, with enough given time, alternatives that would be cheaper and more reasonable within the budget. And so we wanted to amend it down so that if the club wanted to pursue the remaining funding with a cheaper option that was found, that you guys could still save the day, but if not, the club could still make a day trip out of it with the transportation alone.
And we appreciate that perspective that you guys hold. And so we kind of wanted to make sure that this statement kind of covered our bases as to the perspective of if we could do a day trip. If we were able to do a Boston trip without overnight accommodation, we run the risk of students having to maximize their time in Boston while managing their travel times efficiently. Concord Coach Lines, which is the mode of transportation that we were planning to do, estimates a 4-hour trip from Orono, Maine to Boston. Now, meaning that we were supposed to do that within 24 hours, that is 8 hours designated purely for travel. Meaning that by the time we do get into Boston, there is limited time and participation for the events or activities, and reducing the overall value of the trip by adding stress to both us as the executive board and the students going on the trip, which isn't our goal at all, especially to foster that environment. We do not also want to expect undergraduate students to take anything out of their pocket, meaning that even from getting from the bus station to the museum to if they need food and then food back to the bus station, that is all going to be out of pocket. So we just didn't want to ask them of any more than they would be already spending. Two, we do have great health concerns. This morning was 19 degrees Fahrenheit. As by the time we do have the Boston trip would be the beginning of November, meaning that we would be hypothetically dealing with colder temperatures for us students to be traveling. Expecting exposure to cold temperature without our adequate time to rest could lead to health issues for students that we don't really have the opportunity or the resources to deal with. Particularly with pre-existing conditions, we don't know the health conditions of every student that is going on the trip. So long periods of travel with insufficient breaks can also heighten stress and discomfort, which we are trying to avoid overall. And then, so without additional funding, the Black Student Union would have to raise an insufficient amount of money independently in too short of a window. That is it's supposed to be in the beginning of November. That's giving us 2 weeks to raise over $1,600. I don't know about you, what? I don't got that kind of money yet. We thank the student government wholeheartedly for this evening and giving us the chance to use a lot of the money in order to support our students. But we would have to reject the proposal due to an overwhelming amount of logistic issues and risks that we can't afford to take. The proposed budget idea for $500 for hotel rooms can't even cover motel rooms that are anywhere near where we're going. So we wouldn't even be able to use that money appropriately anyway. And so at the end of the day, we do want to give gratitude to you guys because we do understand the difficult decisions you have to make to keep as much money as possible. So we totally understand. We just wanted to give that perspective out when it comes to the decisions you guys make.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speakers? Senator McLean?
You mentioned that an issue with having a day trip would be having to maximize the day. Like, I just don't understand. Like, what would be an issue with maximizing your time?
We would have to maximize every activity we had to do in a shorter window of time. If we even left at 8 in the morning, got there at noon, walked around Boston, and sorry, you talk, you actually.
I was gonna say just living here at 8 a.m. and getting there at like noon without like any issues. We wouldn't have enough time to go to the activity we were planning to do, as well as having enough time to come back as Concord Coach doesn't get here later than 5 p.m.
We also don't have the resources to expect any bus transportation to wait for us, to take us at a later date, to take us at a later time, and they're not coming up to Bangor, so.
Senator Sparks?
Do you have a timeline for what you want to do during the day? Yeah, so a broader idea was that we were supposed to leave in the early morning. We have a museum and it's within like African and Black cultural like heritage with art and things just like that. It was gonna be a tour that the students could be able to go on. And then they would have to eat before we get back to campus with like this proposed plan. It's just a lot to do. We're also even trying to navigate how we're supposed to get from the bus station to this museum to take the tour, and that would have to be out of pocket, which we can totally cover. It's just a lot of things that we can't do.
President Tripp?
How much fundraising have you done for this trip?
So we have been in the process, as the executive board is trying to figure out how we can like maximize like how much money we can have. We were planning to do the Culture Fest this Saturday. There was no other window of time for any of us to table anything, to cook for anything, to plan for anything. The Culture Fest was gonna be that, and that's estimating a couple $100 that we earned from that, which doesn't really skim anything.
Senator Martin?
How many people do you plan on going on this trip?
16.
Okay.
Senator Ball?
How much in advance of this current date were you planning on going on this trip?
We planned this in the beginning of the semester, based off of the time that was available for all of the students. We then decided to reach out to other schools and hear back from them before we talked to the UMSG for our budgeting. It's just been a lot of back and forth between like how we were gonna handle it with the students, and then obviously we've had a couple of weeks presenting this to UMSG, so.
DPSO Rocky?
Yeah, two questions. First, sorry if this was mentioned, but what activities are you planning besides the museum that you mentioned? And follow up, do you envision you guys coming to UMSG for plenty any time for the rest of the year? Like on further education events?
For the first question, it was just the museum tour. It's a pretty long tour. So that was gonna cover the majority of the day. And then secondly, we usually try to do an annual hair care fair. That wouldn't be something that we start until second semester. And we've been talking about getting ourselves ready for fundraisers beforehand.
Representative Merchant?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, the Concord tickets, was that with the $15 discount?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the good thing is that like UMSG, you guys have been able to cover our transportation completely. Like that's not anything that we're talking about today.
Senator Ricker?
Yeah, let me think. Okay, two questions. As the numbers currently stand, how much money do you suspect members who are going on this trip out of pocket would likely have to pay as you go on the trip, like with these numbers here? And secondly, when it comes to hotels and other ways of like residence, what other options have you looked at and like how much are they priced and etc.?
So I'm gonna go into that.
Oh, yeah, so we have considered as well, like an Airbnb where everybody will be together, but they're still in the same amount of money as the hotel, so we offered, that's just a solution.
Also, most of those websites cap it at 14 people, having 16 people. Those houses don't exist in Boston that can hold everybody really comfortably. And then what was the second part of your question?
How much money do you suspect each individual would have to pay out of pocket to go on the trip as it stands in the way they company like to go on the trip?
So we're thinking about, we were keeping in mind the external like apps, like rideshare apps that people would have to take commuting from this bus station, and keeping in mind for city traffic and being the weekend and a holiday. And meals that they're going to have to eat. All of this is like around $100 to $150 out of pocket. So it's expecting a lot of them, so.
Representative Brayton?
Into, like, if there's only $500 for accommodation, are there ways that you could like stay somewhere along the way? Like, I don't know, stay in Portland where hotels are cheaper the night before, and then you leave and it's only a 2-hour drive and you're in Boston at 10, and then you have more of your day, but the accommodation would be cheaper? We were thinking about that, but then that would be another additional thing of bus to Portland, find a place to stay in Portland, bus to Boston, bus from Boston back to Orono.
I feel like, I feel like our limitation with the Concord coach is the latest time they leave is like 5 p.m. And we wouldn't be able to go there and then do the whole tour and then like come back here on time for the bus as they have the streets.
VP Arkin?
Have you guys looked at the Concord coach that leaves from Bangor at 5 a.m.? Is that a possibility for you?
Yeah, and that's totally fine. The thing is that like we were thinking about this and taking everything into account for a day trip. We were just saying that there's like overwhelming risk that this trip could like end poorly for the students. And if they're not as comfortable as they possibly could be, then we don't have to go on this trip at all. So that's what we're saying.
Senator Buzzell?
You guys looked at lodging in a city connected to Boston through public transportation like Lynn, Revere, Newton, those sorts of places, and you could take the T or the commuter rail into the city. I think hotels would be cheaper there.
And that's totally understandable, but keep in mind that like as the executive board for undergrad students, if we can't find an avenue that can work easily and safely for all 16 people, it's hard for us to supervise all of that, getting place to place to place to place to place, and then expecting everyone to get back home safely it's in 2 weeks. So there's a lot of risk in that, so.
Senator Bone?
Is it true, I know that in the
EBC, we were told that, or like an approximate location of the hotel, and we couldn't quite find where you said, but we thought that you were trying to go to the Marriott on the wharf, is that the hotel you're looking at?
We were looking at Expedia and the Marriott on the Wharf had the cheapest room number for a double bed. That's the only reason why we chose it. The other places are full of rooms or way too far for anyone to like get to the museum in time. So we chose that option, but we've looked at different avenues and plans B and C are still too expensive for $500 to cover for 16 people. Yeah.
Senator Martin.
Sorry if I missed this, but what was the name of the museum that you guys are trying to go to?
I can find it. It's the African
American Art Museum.
something. It's within the details of the funding request, so I think you should see that.
Any other questions for the speakers? Representative from Merchant?
Yeah, so I know you mentioned the ride situation, as someone who's never driven more than 2 hours anywhere in that direction and is terrified of city driving. I understand where you guys are coming from, but has there been? No, yeah, I was getting to my point. So how much did you look into like creating a sort of like schedulized plan of like putting experienced drivers in like different sections of the trip if you wanted the driving from Bangor to Boston was like the only plan? Does that make any sense?
Right, so out of the executive board alone, which is 5 of us, 3 out of 5 of us have licenses and 1 out of 5 of us have cars, or 2 out of 5 of us have cars. Those aren't gonna fit everybody, and I don't wanna ask Diora to drive 4 hours to Boston with undergraduate students. If anything happens, she's completely liable for that, and so we're not gonna do that at all.
President Tripp?
So just to clarify, you've known about this trip from the beginning of the semester and no fundraising has been done since.
Right.
Okay, and then on top of that, the date that you set for this was set by you all, correct? The plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a poll and asked students to tell us like what kind of time they had and where to school.
And when I say that we've known since the beginning of the year, the executive board came out with the answer, but getting students to agree on a time period is why it chose to be November. This was a decision made a month ago by everybody, and then we were trying to figure out how to navigate all of that before asking for funding. So then came the process of how are we gonna do fundraising, and our best opportunity was Culture Fest, because none of us have the schedule time to cook if we were selling food at the union, table for the union, yeah. So nobody volunteered to, so that would be our responsibility, so we've been doing the best we can with the time we've got.
Senator Ricker?
Is there anything particular about next weekend, I believe, as opposed to like December, so that the hotel costs might be lower in advance?
We're just, it's not gonna work for students, it's finals in December after Thanksgiving, it's just a crunch of being on campus. It was just a time that we had to be on.
Senator Dolan?
Have you looked at any options like second semester, or is that also out of the option like based on students' time?
We were just basing it off of the fact that it's incredibly cold now. I don't want students walking in the snow. It's not gonna be something that we're thinking of having for second semester.
FEPC Chair?
I definitely missed it, but what else were you planning to do in Boston in your 24 hours there, other than go to a museum?
It wouldn't be 24 hours there, but it would be the museum, because the tour takes up most of the day.
Senator Sparks?
You know, roughly how long the tour would be? No, but I don't have it, our president Basilia has more of the details, but it is like an average that we are spending the day inside this museum.
Are there any other questions for the speaker, Senator McLean?
So what are the supposed stress and comfort concerns with maximizing the time efficiently in a day trip?
The travel there is, I'm just saying that 8 hours to travel, and then we are expected to figure out transportation for 16 people to this museum, spend the day there, eat there, get back to the bus station on time, including the city traffic, getting on the bus, traveling 4 hours back to
campus. It's a lot, and I just don't think that if we decide to do a day trip, we're using UMSG's money in the best way. So it's, if it doesn't work out, we do understand that this trip does not have to happen, but we cannot max, it's not something that I want to take the risk into.
Vice President Oldfield,
Never mind.
any other questions for the speaker? Senator Bowman?
On that topic, do you feel that $600 a night on a hotel room is a valuable spending in student government?
$600.
A night on hotel rooms, because that was what it came out to for what you were requesting.
Well, it was just dependent on because we have so many students that are going East Boston. I can't control the prices of the hotel rooms. I'm sorry.
Any other questions for the speakers? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
510 opt to pass as amended.
Senator Waters?
I move to approve the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, and it's adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Fang?
I'd like to ask about the one.
If the one wants,
That was me.
we'll save that for debate. Okay. Any other points for discussion? Senator Waters?
This debate, if the bus timing is a problem, but we combine the 500 for hotels on top of the bus tickets, would that be enough? Like, so I know we bought a coach bus to Boston last year. How much was that for that coach bus? Because then they could leave at their own time schedule. Still do a day trip, but don't have the constraints of the bus station.
Okay.
Yeah, it was $5,000 a bus.
Oh.
We're not, yeah, we don't commandeer buses for.
Never mind, guys.
Any other discussion?
Oh.
Any debate? Senator Ricker?
Yeah, in the executive budget committee, we make a lot of very, very difficult decisions, like a lot of what we do, like. If we could give every single club that comes in and want money for the trip money, like I would love to do that, but unfortunately, we have an unallocated that's significantly lower than previous years. And because of that, we have to be really careful about where we're putting money, because if the student government goes bankrupt, that's really not good for all 100+ clubs on the campus. So, yeah.
Any other points for debate? Senator Bowman?
So I was the one who was against this. I was mostly against this just because of the way in which they went about their funding request. I felt like it was completely out of practice and they should have known better. Priscilla, the president, has worked with student government for almost 3 years now, I think. And she came to us with a funding request that didn't have any exact numbers, any exact locations or anything like that. So we sent it back and then they came back the next week asking for even more money. And even though in EBC we mentioned how we were able to find hotels for $200 a night that were just outside of Boston within range of public transport. But they still kept it with the same hotel and they actually increased the cost because they said that everything was more expensive as it hadn't taken enough time. Or as they'd taken too much time to get their actual reservations or anything like that. And I felt like they should have, if anybody should know, as somebody who's worked with student gov for so long, how we're supposed to do things. And if we let them get away with not following our procedures and standards, how are we supposed to expect the new clubs to follow their lead and do what we expect them to?
Any other points for debate? Senator Waters?
First off, they saved $180 on their trip with the Concord Coach Bus discount sponsored by Student Gov. How wonderful is that? I mean, I was on EBC too. The original ask for hotels was a lot. I totally understand. No one in this room is fooled to think that $500 can't afford the full accommodation near Boston. We're not silly. We know that that's just half of it. And they're just, but I don't agree with Senator Bohm funding things down on principle and not just the basic facts of or voting something down based on the facts of what we were funding and just in itself in a bubble, in a vacuum. Yeah. Discount.
I have a broader perspective on the budget and kind of this situation at hand. Which is that, again, as we've reiterated over and over again, certain sentiments reign true in both Senator Bohm and Senator Waters' perspectives. We're not in a fun budget situation. And we are in a situation right now where cutting corners and being very intentional with our money, as well as our planning, is very important. something that we are teaching, and I think that is a huge, huge part of this organization is that we are teaching through our budgeting and our EBC and SOC processes as we're teaching orgs and clubs of how to put together these things, to plan these things out, because they are so hard. And they are so hard when you're just a student, and they're so hard when you're a student that's not being paid to do what you're doing, and you're trying to bring those experiences and create a community, especially when we're in Maine and we're so far from culture. I hear it. But I think in my perspective, at least looking at it from the Senate, we are looking at a budget, or at least an event that there is no fundraising been made for. Which does make it difficult, when we're hearing, of course, it is going to be very difficult. Things, Boston is expensive, but that is the truth. Your club wants to go to Boston, it's going to be expensive. That being said, I think that there is room for a trip like this. You've done it before, we've done it before. In fact, in the past, we've been able to pay for it all. And it's not the situation we're in this year. And I want you to know, in the Senate, that I am working tirelessly in the background with our VPFA and others to work out the equity of how student funds are being distributed right now in our budgeting process, but also on how we can uphold and support clubs like yourselves in seeking outside funding when we can't provide it all. Because it's hard, and we should be, if we're not going to be able to provide kind of that standard that we've been at a precedent to, we need to find other ways to support you. That being said, I am not in favor of raising this request in any regard. I think that EBC did a good job in making their decisions, and I apologize about the time frame and the situation that you're in, especially when you're having to coordinate with a bunch of students and figure it all out. But what I am offering to you, and I can't make this a statement for the Senate, but what I do believe the Senate feels is that if this does not happen and you cannot go on this trip, I think that we should work together on ways that we can help and support, perhaps in the spring. Maybe it's not the same trip, and I'm sorry it can't be the same trip, but maybe something else we can do with you, something that we can help up support fundraisings in between, just that way that we can make something happen. But we just simply are no longer in a position to pay for full trips. And I do understand that students will, on top of some of these things, even if we could pay for the full thing, will pay for like things out of their pocket. But when, your club is, as you said, the educational purpose of this is the museum and the getting together. I think that is like where at least the bounds and we're approaching this from, is wanting to fund that part of it. And we're hearing that it can be done in a day, which is hard because if it can be done, that's kind of where we're gonna lean. However, that's kind of where I'm offering with you, is that if you don't think this is safe, if you don't want to bring your clubs or put your club through this with this funding and it passes like this, let's sit down, let's have a meeting either between, it can be us, it can be the EBC, let's sit down and talk about ways that we can make this easier for you guys, because I agree it's not fair and it's frustrating and it sucks and I wish I could, I really, really wish I could. But yeah, so that's kind of my sentiment. I don't want this to feel like even if we're not giving the full, like everything we can, we're giving you as much as we can, and then we're making up that gap somewhere else, and I want you to feel that. So please make sure, if you ever have concerns that we're not, to let me know. And that is my soapbox for the evening, I suppose.
Any new points for debate, Senator Thompson?
I move to previous.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on moving to previous? Any debate? All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. We are now going to vote on the resolution as written. All those in favor of EBC 125 and act to allocate $1,790 to the Black Student Union. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear majority, that passes. Okay, so much. Next, we'll move on to 45F, DLL 132, and act to modify the student organization recognition.
I'm the motion in previous. If they don't got their money, they're just getting. They gotta win.
The floor is yours, when you're ready.
Riley, do you want to project it for me? Is that too much? It's too much work, it doesn't matter. It's not like very complicated.
Is it in the email?
Yeah.
Thing?
You're gonna have to project things like that. We can get started talking about.
Yeah, you get started.
Yeah, so guys, right now, the SORP, the student order recognition policy can require an update form to be submitted to UMSG once annually. Previously, we would use like a WordPress form on our website for these updates for us to keep track of these clubs. Now we use campus groups. So the way campus groups work is every fall and every spring, but we'll get to that. Every fall, there's like a re-registration period for the organization, and you basically just go through the motions to fill in an update form as you would if you were submitting it to us, but it goes on campus groups and it's stored there. In addition to this, what CSI, the Center for Student Involvement, would require is an update form every spring. So that way, groups would basically be submitting an update form once per semester. So I'm basically just saying that for our purposes, since we use the same system, that they submit an update form once per semester. This doesn't actually outline like the cutoff for when it would have to be submitted, so we have some flexibility on figuring that out. And then furthermore, I added that if they don't submit a form for 2 consecutive semesters, that they go inactive. Right now, what it is if they don't submit a form for 1 year, they go inactive, but it's always kind of weird trying to figure out like, oh, like, is it one like calendar year? Is it like, do they submit it during the 24-20 or 23-24 academic year? Like, so are they inactive, are they not? It's pretty ambiguous the way it's written. So it's amending that as well. And also it is striking the requirement in the SORP that when an organization changes their officers, they have to submit an update form within 2 weeks. This is pointless for us because previously what this would do is so we could keep our information up to date in our databases on who these org officers were. But when they change officers now, they just change them in campus groups. So there's really no need for them to submit any kind of update for that. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Ricker?
Just to clarify, this syncs it with CSI and also makes it for once every semester through the same process.
What? Sorry.
This syncs it up with what CSI is doing recognition wise.
No, okay, well, what CSI is doing recognition wise, like affiliation for them, is like I said, they require the spring update form and we require the fall. So I mean, it would just be, yeah, because I mean, these orgs would be doing the 2 update forms anyway, so we might as well just make it a requirement for us as well.
Any other questions for the speaker? President Tripp?
Just generally, SORP provisions, it's, Sean recommended me when I changed them the last time, that they be run by CSI. Have they been run by CSI? Cool.
Good idea.
Excellent. Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Ricker?
Just to clarify, for the clubs who go through and be recognized, not be recognized, but get the update form, it looks the same on their end for the most part when they go through us or through CSI in the lawless way.
You mean like going forward or previously?
Going forward.
Yeah, it's because, I mean, all of our processes are in CSI or are in campus groups, so they're doing the same form, like it's all CSI.
President Tripp?
And to, let's be clear, when they update their information, it updates for us as well in campus groups.
Yeah, because what we look at is what CSI is.
So it's just a constant update, yeah.
Great. Any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none, what is the committee's recommendation?
200 ought to pass.
Senator Martel?
I move to approve the committee's recommendation.
Second.
If that is the pleasure of the Senate, that is adopted. Any discussion on the motion? Any debate? Senator Waters?
200 is bad. Join Polypro, so it could be like 400. Like even 500.
Any other debate? I think it's over. Seeing none, and by the way, SORP provisions require a 2/3 majority. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Seeing a clear 2/3 majority, that passes. I will now give the floor to the Vice President of Student Leadership.
What is it? It's like.
There's not enough copies for everyone, but if you wanna take a look at them, it's the old version of the wording on the scholarship from the foundation and then the updated. There's not really much to talk about. Just, most of what's happening is just some clarification on the foundation side. None of the dates for that is going to change because that's all like policy and procedure resolution. They're merely, making it more succinct as well as just including one of the biggest changes would be like or successor position. When it comes to having the transfer the principal and any appreciated earnings from that going back to student government. Previously, it was just the president, but now it'd be like the president or Pam, if that was how it worked out, because Pam is usually involved in those sorts of things. She works with the foundation a lot. So including that just makes it more convenient to coordinate with the foundation if we ever got to a point where we needed to transfer it back. Hopefully that never happens. So how the scholarships given out $500 for every 8,000 is still the same. And then likewise for like employees and senators not being eligible. So yeah, the only change is the successor entity piece as well as it saying that how the scholarship winners are selected is like completely up to our discretion. Previously it had what our resolution was on there, which is the October deadline, which is still what it is right now. And now it says it's up to our discretion, so that if we do change it, we don't have to send back and forth all to them. Anyone has any questions?
Are there any questions for the speaker? Seeing none.
Okay,
Are there any
and-
questions for the speaker? No.
This doesn't need an official vote, but it does need the president's signature, so if you wanna do like an unofficial sort of thing, so that you feel comfortable signing it.
Is anybody opposed to the president signing this?
Says no.
I will now open the floor to the president.
Okay. Alrighty, guys, so I dropped everything in the Senate chat, so please refer to that, so you don't have to display anything. Yeah, as promised, last week, Vice President Rocky announced that he should be stepping down at the end of the semester. And I said that I would have a timeline for you all, next week. It's here. In the Senate chat, I dropped that timeline. We'll go over it shortly, or briefly. Opening interest period starts today. For the next meeting and the meeting after that, the interest period will continue. I am going to close it on that Friday after November 12th. And the following meeting, that November 19th, it will hopefully be the appointment meeting, which is before our Thanksgiving break, which will leave 2 weeks after Thanksgiving for a training period. I have built in an emergency backup appointment meeting, for if for any reason you reject my first candidate, which hopefully that doesn't happen. But if so, we have another meeting, which leaves before hiring, and if we go past that, something's already gone wrong, and we will have addressed it at that point, or, and then we'll get there when we get there. But I think, just to reiterate kind of my general gist about this, really the pool that I'm looking at, of course, I encourage you all to tell your friends. I'm sure I intend to put up something both in the newsletter as well as our Instagram. But again, the position is to be essentially an interim position. It's somebody who can pick up and be filled. So really, I'm talking to you guys right now. The Google form is going to be open, and you can click that right there. It'll bring you to a link. Ask you two very simple questions. One, are you going to be an undergraduate student next semester? And also, do you consent to me and Jeff reviewing your transcript and GPA to make sure that you follow our hiring requirements and whatnot, and then as well as the attachment for a resume, a cover letter, and a transcript. I'm kind of doing this as consider this like a kind of an open period where the two main people you should be talking to are myself or Vice President Rocky. Vice President Rocky to discuss about the position, perhaps shadowing SOCs, ways that you can prepare yourself for the role. I'm looking for somebody who has initiative for that as well. I need somebody who can pick up the mantle and run with it. So yeah, that's the general gist. Does anybody have any questions about this? And all of this is procedural.
Any questions for the speaker? Senator Waters?
So I can't remember last year, and I know we discussed and debated it, the resolution on if we rehire every position every year or we only rehire vacant positions at the end of the year. What did we end up deciding on that?
I don't know what you're referring to.
So like last March, when we hire people, went over the resolution on, do we rehire everyone, whether the position is vacant or not? Or do we just rehire vacancies? Because it leads into my second question.
I don't think anything had been changed in the hiring
Okay,
policies. in that.
so that means that, okay, so this position is just for the semester and then it goes to rehire.
So,
in April.
so essentially the way, yes, so the way it works is I will be hiring this individual for next semester. They will begin at the beginning of next semester and be going until the end. But that does mean that within 5-6 weeks, regular hiring will be kicked up. And I do point blank period intend to make all people apply for the position. So even if the individual who I appoint an interim, they'll have to go through the hiring process, just to make it fair. They were not hired from the beginning, so they didn't go through that like original hiring vetting process. That makes sense?
Any other questions for the speaker? Senator Sparks?
Is the interest period just the period to be able to fill out the doc?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, are you interested? Please let me know before the end of this period, because I need to hire somebody. Yes. Vice President Rocky.
Will you be holding interviews?
Yeah, the way I intend to do that is kind of, again, I'm going to be doing it, it's a presidential appointment. So the way it'll be working is as people respond, I'll be reaching out to them for interviews. I'll probably be in touch with you. And it'll be the two of us sitting down and interviewing, just to kind of get a test of how they would do in the role. And then all of this, I will be sure, of course, we've had the previous discussions, all hiring materials will be provided to the Senate upon appointment.
Any other questions for the speaker? Representative Bolea?
Out of curiosity, comparing this timeline with the Senate elections timeline, do you have a plan in place for what happens if the candidate chosen for this position is a senator who won an election and what to do with that now vacant position?
So it'll act in the same way that all vacancies will act next semester, which is elections are for contested seats. Everybody will run, in all honesty. I don't think I would want somebody to count themselves out of a Senate position upon applying to this, because I don't want them to not be on Senate and then not get hired. So it's kind of one of those things where this is an emergency fill, so it's not going to be perfect. But the way it works, I believe, and you can correct me, I know you're raising your hand, but I'm gonna take it anyway. I believe that the way it'll work moving forward is that vacant positions will then be reopened to the way that Senate normally works, which is just the signatures and it'll be first come, first serve. Does that make sense? So elections are there to essentially make it so, oh, too many people want to join Senate and not all of them can. So we have to run an election, but if there are, 7 vacancies, we're not going to say no because nobody ran for them, we'll let them on. Does that make sense? So if a seat falls vacant, it'll become first come, first serve.
Yeah, just building off of that. Say a senator who won an election ends up getting this position, technically they won't have to vacate anything because they're only a senator elect. So.
I think you just confused them and it touched on a different situation, but that's okay. Yeah. What he is saying is that you wouldn't have to step down this semester if you were a senator. It would be going into next semester, I think is what you're saying.
No, but we'll move past it.
Okay. Then I have no idea what the vice president just said.
Great. Any other questions from the speaker? Seeing none.
I guess is there any qualms with this? I'm doing this. This is by policy. This is how it's done in the past. I know it's not perfect. It's not exactly the best and most foolproof way to do it, but I do have full faith in all of you to vet the person that I put through, and I think that that will be enough accountability for the position. And again, in the past, I think the situation was. In the past, the president stepped down and then the VPSL was moved to the vice presidency and then a senator was appointed to the VPSL ship. And that was the last time this has ever happened. So. Cool, all right, thank you guys.
Saying nothing for main motion, we will now be entering executive session. I would like to ask any non-members to please be excused. If you're an observing senator, just get in touch with either myself or Katie, you can sign your stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Is that the vacating of all non-members? Cool. I will now ask the clerk to call.
Dave Shelmerdine. Here. Ezekiel DeLorme.
Here.
Nick Banks.
Here.
Lauren Thompson.
Here.
Kate Boswell.